We're going to go to that next. What is a woman? What is a woman? It's a good question. It's a fair question. I don't know if you've seen a lot of talk recently about this documentary that Matt Walsh put out there from the DailyWire. I saw it. I watched it. I think it's important to watch no matter where you stand on the issue. You may disagree with Matt. I don't know Matt personally. You may love him. You may hate him. Whatever your opinion on him is, doesn't matter. I think he would say the same. Doesn't matter. I think it's important to watch it because it's eye-opening. And what a documentary is supposed to do is it's supposed to make you think. It's supposed to provide you with information, ask important questions, interview people, and leave you thinking about an issue, no matter where you stand. And that's what it did for me. So I encourage people to go and watch it, even if you dislike the premise, which is that you know where Matt stands on these issues. And I'm not going to speak for him. You can go and check out where he stands. He's not here to represent his own thoughts, so I don't want to. But what's interesting that happened is that, in the film, he interviews a whole bunch of people and he tries to get to the bottom of the very simple question, what is a woman? If you're talking about, the ability of a biological man to become a woman, what is a woman? What is the defining characteristic? Can you tell me what that is? You get to the end of the film and no one has been able to answer that. No one who is suggesting that, yes, a biological man can become a woman is able to answer that. In fact, there's a lot of defensive, why are you asking? There's a lot of that goes on. Parts of it are funny and whatnot. What I thought was interesting about it is that, and I didn't agree with everything in there. There were some things that I said, well, I don't know if I would have executed it that way. Or as a living, thinking, breathing, free-thinking human, you're going to watch something, you're going to have your own perspective that you come out. That's the whole point. That's what they desired. I look at Rolling Stone, which I don't read, but came in my Twitter feed. Someone retweeted it. And I see this column just a few days later. Why are social media companies taking ad money from a right-wing transphobic doc? I was like, okay, here we go. If you go into this article, first of all, they call it hateful. I didn't find it hateful. I didn't find him hateful of these individuals. That was not my perspective at all. Also, remember, transphobic. Is that the appropriate word to use? Is there a deep dislike? Is there a hatred of trans people that comes across in this film? You'll have to make the judgment for yourself. I didn't find that either. You have to be able to ask questions. The question is, what is a woman? Answer it. Just answer it. Give your answer. Give your perspective. That was the whole nature of this. Let's get to the bottom of what we're really talking about here. You read the article from Rolling Stone, and it says this. The Daily Wire has bought ads on major social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram to promote the film. And so far, even though the documentary seems to violate TikTok and Meta's policies against hate speech, the ads stay up. So they're mad about this. They're upset. This was an effort, obviously, to demonetize, to deplatform, to rally, the woke cause, to say, I don't care if you've seen it. This is the talking point of the day. This is transphobic. We have to this is gaining too much traction. This is making too many people think for themselves about this issue. This is presenting an alternate view that we don't want out there. It's not a becoming look for the cause that we value and appreciate. We don't like it. Imagine if people did this for every documentary. You'd never see anything. You'd never learn anything. You'd never think. You'd have a whole segment of you'd have the whole population actually that would be unable to think, which is what they want.
I was going to say, that's the point, right?
That's the point. Yeah. A nation of robots. Yeah. Little robots. Little puppets.
Very 1984.
Very 1984. Very 1984. And they love it. They love it. The less you can think for yourself, the happier they are. So the Daily Wire responded. I was kind of interested. I was like, I wonder if they watched the film. That was my first thought. Did they watch it? Turns out, no. The Daily Wire responded. This is from the Daily Wire. We have the receipts. Rolling Stone hit piece calls What is a Woman Transphobic? But its author watched 0% of the movie. 0%. If you dig into that column, it says that the Daily Wire invited the article's author, Moises Mendez II, I don't know if I'm saying that correct, Moises probably, I'm not sure, to watch the documentary earlier this week. And Mendez watched 0% of the film before reaching his conclusion and locked his Twitter account after he was called out. That's my favorite part. And then if you go on, Elizabeth Garber-Paul, the editor of Rolling Stone's hit piece, managed to sit through a whole 11% of the film before she greenlit the article. So they didn't watch it. So that tells you everything that you need to know. If your goal was to take down the film in a smart, intellectual way, if you really felt like I'm on the right side of this issue and I need to show why this is wrong, I'm pretty sure the folks at the Daily Wire would have loved that exchange of ideas. That's why he did the documentary. He wanted that conversation. You may not think he did, but he did. He wanted that conversation. And he would have had it on film had those people answer the questions. They didn't want, these people who wrote this article, they didn't want to have an intellectual debate about this. They didn't, or they would have watched the movie. They would have, piece by piece, what I would do is I would watch the film and I would go down. This is wrong. Take notes. And then come out with a really great article that refutes why these things are wrong. It says, this is wrong because of this. This is wrong because of this. That's not there. This is just like, it's transphobic. End of story. It's transphobic and it needs to be shut down. So that's lazy. It's boring. It's predictable. It's transparent. You're showing your true colors that you didn't care. You didn't care to watch it. So people out there, if you're going to criticize something, my rule is always you can criticize whatever you want. You can have a problem with whatever you want. You can disagree with whatever you want. You may watch this movie. You may take my advice, go home, watch the movie tonight and say, Jed, write me a comment and say, I hated it and here's why. Okay. Fully entitled to that perspective. But you're not entitled to not watch it and then pretend you watched it and come out with a talking point that a whole bunch of people wrote that you then disseminate through media, and all the little robots in the Stepford Wife movie follow through like little robots and they repeat it and regurgitate it, and we're somehow supposed to take you seriously. No. You have to earn that. You have to earn the right to be taken seriously. This is not a serious piece. And I think, this topic of gender, we're going to dig into this, not fully today because I want to have some guests on. And a lot of you have been asking about guests. The guests are coming. There's some infrastructure that needs to be in place for the guests because I am not shying away from controversy. So let's just say that. We need some infrastructure. But we're going to bring some guests on, some key guests, and we're going to talk about this gender issue. It's an important issue. And it's a valid question, right? It's a valid question. What is a woman? What is a man? These are just important questions. You can have many different answers to those questions, but it's important that we ask them and that we're okay with having a discussion about what's going on. One of the topics that's kind of come off of this and been really, really important is women's sports and what's going to happen to women's sports. You've seen a lot of coverage of Leah Thomas, the transgender swimmer who's been winning, beating out biological women, very controversial. I saw an article in the Post Millennial, also over the weekend, that says biological males win women's cycling event, kiss while third place female, they mean the biological female, cares for child. If you look into the article and read through that a little bit, it says Emily Bridges and Lily Chant, two biological men who identify as transgender, won the first and second place slots at London's Thunder Crit cycling event on Thursday. And you can flip through. The third place went to the only biological woman in the photo. She's pictured holding her child and standing. You can see the picture. It'll show you. You can read on if you want to read these articles. So this is a legitimate topic of discussion. That's her. She's holding her little girl. I don't know if they were on a platform. I don't know what's going on there that created that dynamic. I don't know. This is a legitimate topic. This is a fair topic. I am a female. I'm athletic. I didn't really get involved in competitive sports. I ran track in high school a little bit, more to clear my head than anything. I wasn't that competitive about it. But I had a lot of friends that worked their butts off. Their whole lives really wanted sports scholarships. A good friend of mine in college was on a basketball scholarship, and they had aspirations of professional sports. That was their dream. It's a worthwhile discussion to have in terms of what happens to women's sports if biological men that transition and define themselves as women are now able to play in women's sports. What happens to the biological women? They're going to be at a disadvantage. They are going to be at a disadvantage. What do we do? How do we deal with what's happening right now? And I think it's fair to say that someone should ask these questions for the women that work their whole lives. Since little girls, some women work from when they're little kids, training for these things. This is their lifelong dream. These are fair questions, legitimate questions, again. And I'm always curious when these conversations happen where the feminists are. Because what I see is a heavy reluctance to defend women, to say, this isn't fair. What happens if we wind up in a world where there are men's sports and transgender sports and the women get boxed out completely? It could happen. It could happen. What, are women going to be third and fourth and fifth place? What happens if they can't get that first and second place spot? What is going to happen here for women who want to play sports, and that's their passion, and that's their love, and that's their dream? Where are the feminists? And I've always had a problem with people who call themselves feminists, very oftentimes anyway, because it seems like they're not advocates for women. It seems like they're advocates for a liberal cause. And if the actual well-being of women needs to take a back seat, it will every single time, in the same way that Gloria Steinem used to be, outspoken for women, but then she would hold hands and chat with Bill Clinton all the time, the womanizer, and be like, oh, Bill, It seems very selective. So I think it's a fair question, again, to ask where this is all going, what's going to happen, and where are the people that are supposed to be advocates for women? And if they're silent, why are they silent? Why are they silent? Why is no one taking a minute to think about the other side of this issue? Are they afraid? Is everyone afraid now? Everyone's afraid to speak up because you'll be censored, you'll be labeled whatever, a bigot, this, that, or the other. I mean, no one can just speak and say, hold on a second, I have a daughter who plays sports and X, Y, and Z. I mean, why? Don't allow that to happen to the conversation. I don't care. You get censored somewhere, go somewhere else and have it. Have it at your dinner table with your friends, adults. Not a conversation for children necessarily, unless you as an adult decide that it's a conversation you want to have with, say, your teenager who's going through this. I'm talking about little kids, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, who some feel should be talking about issues of sex in schools. Not me. So I'm putting that out there as kind of a tease because I find it horrific what Rolling Stone did, just because they didn't watch it. And I find this refusal to watch a movie before commenting, this refusal to actually voice an opinion because you're afraid that you're going to be labeled something. It's not helping anyone. It's not helping the conversation. It's not helping any of us. It's not even helping your cause, frankly, because the second you tell someone, oh, I hated this movie and I didn't watch it, you look like an idiot. So now no one even wants to hear what you have to say. Now everyone's like, oh, well, they don't even care about what they're trying to defend, or they would have watched the damn film and they would have come out with counterpoints. So it doesn't help anyone, is the bottom line. And we're going to get into this more. That was a tease. And I know there'll be people who say, oh, Jed, don't cover this. It's too... No, I'm here for the controversy. I'm here for the storm. We're in a storm, right? I'm not going to hide. I'm going to get my umbrella. Luckily, it's sturdy. Not always. Sometimes I fly off. One time an umbrella in New York City, true story, lifted me right off the ground.
Like Mary Poppins
Poppins. Floated right on up. I'm not that lightweight. I'm lightweight, but I'm not that lightweight. Floated right on off there. And I think I put out a request. Can someone make an umbrella that, here in Florida, let's put it out there. Umbrella companies, make an umbrella that doesn't enable me to be lifted off the ground by a gust of wind. Let's put that out there. Anyway, I'm built for the storm with a good umbrella in hand. I like to have an umbrella. You need some protection. And so we're going to get more into that in coming weeks. But think about what I asked today. Think about the questions and think about how you may be sitting at home right now and you may be that person who has an opinion about something and hesitates to share it. Think about a world in which everyone sat back and hesitated to share it out of fear that they would be labeled something. What does that world look like? Scary. It's a scary world. Don't let that happen to this country. I don't care what the issue is at hand.
Well, real quick, back to women's sports. Do you remember back in 2020, the transgender MMA fighter?
Yes.
Broke a woman's skull?
Yeah.
And now, a couple months ago, California reported they had pregnant female inmates because they were housing them with the transgender females. It's to your point, where does this go? Like, where are the people that want to stand up for women and protect women? This is absurd. So,
and you're talking about prison. Just broaden it out and say, it started as a conversation, I think, about kids' bathrooms.
Mm-hmm. In North Carolina, yep.
And now it's broadened out. So just think about, everything has a slippery slope, right? So just think about where, and I've learned to do this more because I used to be someone who really dealt with what was happening. Let's deal with the now. But the now becomes the later. And what's happening now is that it's becoming the later faster than ever before, it seems. So just think about all of those things and all the different areas of life. But more than anything, I'm always saying, think about a world in which you decide to stay silent because you don't want to be controversial, and what happens then? You have to, conversation is sometimes resistance. It's you saying, that doesn't sound right to me. Here's why. You have to have a voice. You must have a voice. This is not a time, I always say this is not a time for cowards, and it's not. Not on this issue, not on any issue. If you like the short clip, you can catch another one here, or you can catch the full episode right here.